physical to illustrate the problem that we have with privacy nowadays. Okay? And how does privacy and different understanding of privacy and data protection affect cross-continental collaboration? And can we find a common ground? Yeah. These questions should be the scope of the session. And unfortunately, we won't be able to answer all of them, but I'd like to point out that there will be an open discussion and a forum in the afternoon, so we have much more time. And I hope for a valuable discussion and exchange of information. So thank you very much. Our first speaker, we have a very nice list of speakers, is Mr. Olivier Bringer, associated with the European Commission Trust and Security Unit, and he will talk about the legal framework, privacy and data protection in the EU. And of course, later on, we will also learn about the equivalent in China, what are the differences, and I hope you will enjoy the session. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I will very quickly provide you with an overview of our framework for cyber resilience and data protection in Europe. This is a horizontal framework, so it applies to Internet of Things, future Internet, and any future digital revolutions. I think it is important to take it into account when developing research projects. First of all, speaking about cyber resilience in particular and cyber security in general, why do we act at the EU level? I don't need to convince you that there is an economic and social benefits of having an open internet and using the digital world at its full capacity. At the same time, there are risks, there are threats. Cybercrime is on the rise. So we need to tackle them. We cannot tackle these issues only individually at the level of individual member states or individual industries. We need to have a comprehensive vision, and we need to have cooperation. This is why we came out with a new cybersecurity strategy in the beginning of this year. This strategy defines the principles and the value which are guiding our action in this domain, and in particular that we must comply with fundamental rights, including data protection. It sets out our strategic priorities. The first of them is to achieve cyber resilience, and for that we have proposed a regulatory instrument, a directive on network and information security, which will be complemented by a public-private platform to help implement this regulatory instrument. We want to reduce cybercrime. We want to increase cyber defense capability at European level. We want to have EU international cyberspace policy. And supporting all of these strategies, we need to have industrial and technological resources for cybersecurity in place. The strategy also defines the roles and the responsibilities of the different players, the public, the private players, the national players, the European players, and how they have to cooperate. If I turn to the regulatory instrument, the Directive on Network and Information Security, it is based on three pillars, which are mutually reinforcing. The first one is that member states will ask member states to increase their level of functional capability, but a minimum level of capability. We have member states which are very advanced, some which are lagging behind. We need to have a minimum level, and this is important, in fact, to create trust and ensure cooperation with all member states. And this is the second pillar of our directive. We want the member states to put in place a network for information exchange on incidents, on threats, on best practices, and also to have a mechanism for coordinated reaction in case of cross-border incidents. The third pillar of the directive is to have to increase the culture of network and information security across sectors. So network and information security is a shared responsibility. The private sector has a key role to play there, and this is why we will ask a number of key sectors to implement risk management, to make sure that their core services are resilient, and to also notify incidents to the national authorities. The key sectors which are concerned, so today the telecom sector is already submitted to these obligations. We will extend it to the sector of energy, transport, banks, the health sector, key internet players, and also public administrations. And you see that the three pillars are mutually reinforcing. If I turn to the public-private platform on network information security, we have set up this platform over the summer. It's an inclusive and multi-stakeholder platform. So we have participants from the public side, from the private side. We have participants from different industries. We have participants from Europe, but also from Asia and from North America. The idea is that it's a forum which is it's a bottom-up initiative. So the work will be driven really by the participants, with the objective to identify and to facilitate the uptake of risk management best practices. And there we don't want to reinvent the wheel. There is already a body of international standards. There are already best practices which are in place in different companies and public administrations. We want to promote those. In the end, we will use the output of this platform to recommend best practices, and there will be no imposition of standards. In our view, if these are really best practices, then there is an interest for everyone to adopt them. We don't need to mandate them. Another objective of this platform is to steer the research and innovation agenda for secure ICT, so to act as an advisory board. Last point on cyber resilience, we need to have the resources in place. For that, we have two levers. The first lever is the single market. We have a huge single market, we have to make most of it. And the second lever is research and innovation funding. So the single market, what we want to do in fact is to have a single market for cybersecurity products. And for that, we want to foster both the demand side and the supply side. So on the demand side, we have the directive, the platform, which will foster the development of risk management practices. On the supply side, we will ask the industry to do some work. It is for the industry to develop the standards and to develop the products which will be used by the end users. And we will help them through the second level, which is research and innovation funding. Because of course it is, not only regulation and processes can tackle the cyber resilience issue, we also need to have the technologies in place. And above all, and this is a key objective of the research policy in Europe now, we need to make sure that the research results feed into commercial solutions, so that we already have quite a lot of research results in ICT security. Now we need to push it to the market. And in time of austerity, we want to coordinate our research agenda with the research agenda of the member states and of the industry. I will now very quickly guide through the data protection framework in Europe. So we have a general data protection. We have general data protection rules in Europe, which prevent certain practices on data controllers. The objective is to protect the personal data of the citizens. It is a fundamental right for us, and ensure the functioning of the internal market, ensure that the companies face the same rules everywhere. So the rules are currently under review. The main objective of the review is to have a harmonized framework, make sure that we have the same rules everywhere. This is why we use an instrument which is called the regulation, and which applies European regulation, which applies directly everywhere. We want to increase individual rights, for example, on consent. We want to introduce new rights like the famous right to be forgotten. And we want to increase the accountability of data controllers. And for that, in particular, we will ask them to notify data breaches. Now we have another part in this data protection framework, which is specific to the telecom sector, which somehow specifies the general rules and complements them and mandates certain obligation on telcos and ISPs. These rules concern the security of the network, confidentiality of the communication, and there is already in these specific rules an obligation to notify data breach, which will be extended with the reform of the general framework. Another important point is that, and this is a consequence of the obligation to ensure the confidentiality of communication, there is an obligation in Europe to gather the informed consent of users to store and access information on their terminal equipment. And this is, of course, this targets many cookies. And to implement this obligation, we have asked the industry, again, to come up with self-regulatory obligation, one on online behavioral advertising, and one on a do not track standard currently developed by the W3C. To conclude on the implementation of this framework, I would say that really trust and security for us are a precondition for achieving our smart growth objective, and I think it's the same thing here in China. So we need to have cyber resilient and networks and protect personal data to make sure that the digital society develops and to create growth and jobs. It shouldn't be an hindrance, it should be something that fosters innovation and growth. We think we have to put in place a comprehensive framework which respects fundamental rights, including data protection. The legislative part of this framework is currently under negotiation, so the Directive on Network and Information Security and the data protection reform. And we hope to have it adopted by spring, before the next European election in spring next year. The rest of our strategy is being already implemented, and this is really a key political priority. And there I want to insist, and we insist very much on the role of the private and public stakeholders to implement the strategy. Because in the end, it is the public and the private stakeholders who will adopt the solutions, provide the products, who will make cyber resilience and data protection a reality. And I think this is something that we should keep in mind, and this is in this period probably that we need to conduct collaboration in research projects with strong involvement of public and private players. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olivier. The development of such a legal framework obviously is a continuous process. Yeah, and I'm very happy that the discussions and the content of these frameworks need to be reviewed on a regular basis. Right. Okay, our next presentation will be presented by Professor Zhong Qingling. He's associated with the School of International Relations at the University of International Businesses and Economics here in China. A warm welcome, and I'm looking forward to your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attention. I come from China's University of International Business and Economics, and I also serve the policy analysis in China's Data Information Center. my research is focused on cyber security and policy. In the past 10 years, Chinese people become more and more pay attention to personal information security, especially today when the smoking issue broke out. More and more Chinese people they talk about their personal information, how to protect their information, and how the companies get their personal information when they receive many advertisements they don't need. Today, I talk about 3 topics. The first, I want to talk about the challenges of the challenge of ICT development in information age. How can we promote data protection and privacy in era of information? The second, I want to talk about the difference between the EU and China approach their data protection and policy. And third, I want to talk about some recommendations. What is the area of possible cooperation between China and the EU when they research cooperation on cyber security and information protection, and how do we achieve our goals in design? The first I want to talk about the change of the ICT to data protection and privacy. About 10 years ago, people don't want to talk about their people don't worry about their information leakage, but today this question is become more and more important and become more urgent. About 10 years ago, there is a joke on the internet, and nobody knows you are going. But today, on the internet, you are being tracked and stalked at any time. So, in the information age, how can we to protect our information? And what is privacy for every people, and how we protect them? With the intensive application of ICT and a growing popularity of internet, personal information plays an increasingly prominent role in social and in economic activities. With the development become more and more develop faster. The role in activities in economic and social activities become more and more important. At the same time, the misuse of personal information appears and brings harm to social order and personal interests. So, how do we know our personal information is safe on the internet or online? I think in the information processing and transfer, there are a lot of questions we are bringing out. Let's say there are 4 stages of information processing. We are bringing some personal information leakage. The first is collection. The question is, how should the companies and other entities handle personal information? In our ordinary life, we often receive some advertisement. How do the companies know you want to buy a house, a bag, a watch? How do we get your personal information? And when the companies get the information, what standards should they obey or observe? So this is a very, very important question. Some legislation should be made out. The second is information processing. Is it right to disclose someone's information to third party with the subject's consent? The third is information transfer. Under what circumstances and in what way can we transfer personal information? Is the third question. The second is deletion and removing of information. Under what conditions can we store and delete personal information, especially for the business and the administration of government activities? So these four questions will be bringing challenges for our personal information security and privacy. The second I want to talk about how do China and the EU approach their data protection and privacy. When we talk about privacy, this concept have different meanings between the China and the EU. But for Chinese, when they talk about privacy and data protection, it means don't misuse the information. But for the EU, when they talk about the privacy, it's to protect freedom and human rights. So they have different meaning when they talk about this concept of data protection and privacy. I think this is the first difference between the EU and the China when they talk about the data protection. The second is what is the legal system for Chinese data protection and privacy. I think this is the biggest difference approaches to data protection for China and the EU, because for the EU, they have a unitary system of legislation to protect privacy of data or personal information. But for Chinese, we don't have a comprehensive or unitary legislation. When we talk about protected information, we use different laws. For example, the laws on sector, national, other laws. For Chinese, the legislation for data protection is scattered different laws. So I want to talk about a judicial case on data collection and privacy. In January 2010, a court in Zhuhai handed down the first criminal sentence for illegal acquisition of personal information under the amended PRC criminal law. This case involved a Chinese individual who brought a log of telephone calls made by 14 high-ranking government officials and subsequently sold it to for the third party for 16,000 RMB. The fraudsters then used the information to impersonate the officials and extracted RMB 30,000 from their families and friends. This video who brought and retrieved the telephone log to a fraudster was sentenced for 18 months imprisonment based upon 2,000 RMB for breach of the criminal law. This is a very, very important sentence. From the start in 2003, the Chinese people began to talk about information protection. This is starting. In 2005, Chinese have a debate to make legislation on information protection, but it is no conclusion. But in 2009 and 2010, this is a biggest change for Chinese legislation of information protection. This is the first criminal sentence. So this is very, very important. It's a milestone for Chinese information protection. The second, I think For today, the Chinese information protection is dominated by two documents. The first is the decision. On December 2012, the Standing Committee of Chinese National People's Congress issued the decision on strengthening protection of internet data. This is this decision contains high-level requirements for internet service providers and other types of entities and protecting electronic personal data, which means electronic data that may identify a person and electronic data that related a person's privacy. In Chinese, in this decision, Chinese government divides the personal information two categories: the general personal information and the sensitive information system data. What is the highlights of the requirements in this decision? There have four highlights. The first is when collecting electronic personal data from individuals. Data collectors should obtain the consent of the individuals and implicitly inform the individuals of the purpose, manner, and scope of data collection and use. The second is data collectors should develop procedures for data collection and use and make these procedures public available. The third is data collectors should keep the confidential collected data and should not sell or provide such data to other persons in any illegal manner. Data collectors should take immediate remedial measures in case of the leakage and the threat of leakage. The fourth is the violation may be subject to data collector to a series of penalties, including warning, monetary fines, confiscation of illegal goods, revocation of lines, and the takedown of websites, and the disarmament of relevant personnel from engaging in internet service. The second Chinese document for information protection is the guideline for personal information protection business information system for public and commercial service, which issued on November 2012 by the General Administration of Quality Supervision, Inspection, and Quality of China. This document is a technical guideline which is at the third and lowest level of national standards and does not have a binding legal force. The guideline says the requirements on collecting, handling, transferring, and deleting personal information in a system, information system. The proposed five key requirements of guideline. The first is personal information administrators, which are the entities collecting information and they control the use of information through the information, the subject in of all aspects of personal information and use. Such as the purpose, scope, retention period. The second is personal information administrator should not use personal information for any purpose that is not disclosed to the subject individual. The third is if a personal information administrator needs to transfer information to another person, it should evaluate whether the receiver may handle this information according with the requirements of the guideline, and also sign a writing agreement with the receiver to set forth the receiver's personal information protection obligations. The fourth is the personal information administrator should delete collected information immediately after the purpose of information collection notified to the subject in your hands being fulfilled. If a person's information needs to continue to process the information, it should be deleted the content. The final. Our personal information administrator should delete data personal information if the subject individual makes a reasonable request about to take the appropriate retention and spacing measures if such decision may hinder evidence collection activity of the government. This is the Chinese legislation for legislative document for information protection. The second, the old, okay. The digital protection from the EU, Mr. Oliver, and talk about a lot of things I have no need to say. But I think to propose, I think to conclusion, there I have two documents also. The first is the Data Protection Directive 1995, and the second is the E-Privacy Directive 2002. This is the main documents in EU to protect information, personal information. So I want to talk about the difference between the China and the EU is for China, we don't have a comprehensive system of legislation, but for EU they have a comprehensive legislation. The third, in the future, how do we promote the cooperation between the China and the EU? I think this 6 arenas will be very, very important. The first is we should define key terminology to use the same standards, technological and legally. For example, what is privacy and information, and so on. The second, we must dialogue and build a common principles on data protection and privacy. The second, we can encourage and promote the sense of data protection and privacy. For example, the education, how to educate people to protect their information on internet. The second is strengthening transparency in decision making of respective policy. The fact we must coordinate the policy and law enforcement through joint efforts to counter a common risk. The final, we can also institutionalize a common research and personal exchange on different levels, not only government to government, can also promote some personal exchanges on different levels. For example, expert to expert, people to people, government to experts, and so on. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much also from my side, Professor Long. It seems like it's, and thanks for revealing the differences between EU and China, which automatically leads, when you think about it, to a very comprehensive to-do list. Yeah, it's quite easy to derive action points from your talk and also the previous talk given by Olivier Finger. This will be done in the afternoon. Our next presentation will be done by Mr. Donald Chan, who will more talk about privacy and data protection in the Internet of Things and future Internet applications. I would kindly ask Mr. Donald Chan to stick with the time limit of 10 minutes, okay? And thank you very much for coming here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. First of all, I'm coming from ST Microelectronics, a semiconductor leading company in the world. Today I will represent two entities. One is from the European Channel, 中国欧盟商会, and also from the Asia, is the 欧洲半导体工业的联盟. So today I will touch on the information security from the perspective from the commercial company point of view. This morning we have many speeches from Madame Lemon, Olivier, touching on legal framework and encouragement Just now, my colleagues, Professor Dong have touched on mainly a lot of the privacy time on that. So today, my speech will be quite straightforward. Highlight on these 6 bullet points, looking at the policy, on the network security, on the protocol, a little bit about the case study and what we recommend from the European Chamber's point of view. So this morning we had the input from our study from the ICT group about the growing of the Internet of Things, that we have known rapidly the increasing of connected device integrated almost everywhere in our daily life. Even some of them, you are not aware that you are constantly connected to the world. What we see that is going to be about 30 billion of devices that will be connected wirelessly into the world by 2020. So this is a humongous numbers that is going to impact our daily life. So that comes to the point on what could be the policy challenges that we see from the eyes from the industry as implement the solution to it. For sure, we have to look at the healthy development of the IoT, because only a healthy development of the IoT will help the society to improve. This list is not exhaustive, but we have tackled a few important points. The network security that Olivier has highlighted, the privacy and data collection as Professor Dong have looked into it. We also see that the identity management as also fostering innovation, encouraging innovation, have to be look at it carefully. By looking into what need to run on the network security wise, what we see now is that everything, so every objects are connected to the global world. So in that case, in fact, these objects are communicating. 他们在互相之间都有直接的一个交流。那在这里呢，我们就要非常的小心。These objects are in fact will improve the new security and privacy problem. 所以今天的课题我们都谈到安全跟隐私这两方面的主要课题。We have a joke by using this acronym, CIA. In fact, it's acronym by confidentiality, the integrity of the data, and the authenticity. 那这个可能我们看到有一个简单的一个基本是一个 CIA 的问题，其实是反过来去看这些课题里面我们怎么样去逐一的去分析它。So for that, we wanted to do a secure end-to-end communications between the different objects in order to, through this one, to make sure the secure identity and authentication. Only with this way, we know that the Internet is a global one, and only with the international standards adoptions that will provide us a better means of it. 由于这些物理件互联网方向的一个发展，有效的互通、互信跟这个坚韧的一个情况下，才能达到这个效果。So how do we do that? One thing is to provide a secure connections, and this secure connection is normally enabled by encryption. 所以加密技术在这个环节里面就变成了非常的重要。但是加密技术它会围绕着很多的方面。So then the encryptions have imposed into it. What we need to ensure is that the industrial development of the secure protocols have to be looked into it carefully. So how do we tackle that? What we see is the consumer demands are increasing. Like what Professor Dong said, the humans, people are asking for a better protection on the security and the privacy of it. And we also heard that there's a variety of ICT products and systems that is flowing into the market because of the Internet of Things. 人们在事业上面，在使用这些产品方面的话，对安全隐私的要求是非常的这个明显。那我们怎么去应付这个时刻？加密技术在这里面变成非常重要的一个问题。So the use of encryption will be widespread. Even now, you are not aware. In fact, there is many encrypted products that you carry around. But what we wanted to emphasize is the commercial products. 因为这个加密技术会延伸到这个个人、政府或者隐私。所以今天我们会更加的清楚说，我们是在宣示的是民用的这个加密技术。 So the commercial encryption is one of the important things, and the regulations is one of the most pillar of specifying a different technology for it. 所以政策的侧向在各个国家之间是非常重要的一个基础。So what we see is that in order to increase the device become connected, the cyber threats have become also an inevitable issue that we have to look into. What we think is that in order to overcome this, there are three main things that we would like to look at it from the industrial standpoint, is to provide secure, tested protocol and algorithms. 那要解决刚才所谓的这个 CIA 的这个问题的话，我们从企业的这个角度去分析的话，我们会用一个 EIA 的一个方式去解决它。这个方式其实是会围绕在说，我们要提供一个安全、有效的一个 protocol 这个流程系统，然后有效的这个密钥算法。So with that, the encryption, identification, and authentication is the key to, let's say, open up the door of this. And an open security standard is what we think is the fundamental that the industry will come to consensus, whether it's in Europe, US, Asia, China. In fact, it's a global world. This is our wish to pass this message into the, let's say, Chinese counterpart through these sessions. I have two examples looking at the current regulations in China. The first one is related to the so-called state encryption regulations that is under the control of the State Commercial Cyber Administration. In short, we call it OSCA. Where in this regulation at the moment is excluded all the foreign invested enterprise, that is all non-Chinese company, by taking part in the required certification process in China. That means no FIE will be allowed to participate. So with this, in fact, because of the encryption certificates are only issued to a certain parts of the commodity, whereby you require a major Chinese stake in the company employee, and it will imply a national algorithm that the FIE are not able to get access to it. So without on these two important things, basically there's no FIE able to play a part in these regulations. But the good news is that we know after 2 years regulations, discussion, dialogue with OSCA, we know they are under revised for this policy. 那下来我其实会用简短用中文说一下，这个有两个主要影响到在企业的这个推向发展。第一个就是有关密码局使用的这个商用密码管理办法里面所使用的一个商密办管理条例的一个规范。在这个条例规范里面，其实外企是没有办法拿到这个证书，因为这个证书里面是需要刚才所说的那个两个要点。那其实欧盟商学会已经跟这个国家密码局在这方面有进行多次的这个讨论。遗憾的是还没有一个非常有效的一个机制来解决。其实是问题会围绕在这个欧盟或者欧洲的国家，他们比较有清晰的这个商密的办法来分别出是民用或者是军用。那么咱们中国的方面的话，目前这个法律体系是一体化，所以并没有分别出是民用商品还是军用商品。The other thing is related to the MLPS, which is about the multi-level protection scheme that is implied by the Chinese authority, which mandate that the inquiry on the compliance about the